The views and opinions expressed within the video content found on the Indie Comics Network are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Indie Comics Network or its sponsors.
In 1878, the first motion picture, The Horse in Motion, revolutionized entertainment. Now pictures could move, and soon they would learn to talk as well. But this only served to fling open the door to man's imagination. It was the very same imagination mankind yearned to see on the screen. Just as they did with flight, innovators learned to manipulate their tools and their surroundings to breathe life into creatures from worlds beyond. And because of stop-motion animation, or claymation as it's been dubbed, skeletons, mechanical arms, and red-nosed reindeers pranced across the screen as if they belonged in the real world. Tonight, come join the panel as we discuss how this contributed to making great comics and how we were inspired by this stop-motion magic. Right now on Dispatches from Outside the Box.
In the spaces, things exist. In the lines that form the network of your mind. Behind the retinals of imagination are the particles and peripherals that made you who you are. Turn off, shut your eyes, and listen to Dispatches from Outside the Box.
All right, and welcome to the show that inspires you to create comics outside of the box. And if a little something else gets in there too, that's okay. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you to press that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe, share, and hit that bell icon. If you're live with us today, you're part of the panel too, so please participate in the chat. If you're not, that's great too. The conversation doesn't have to end just because the show isn't live. Leave a comment and we'll do our best to get back to you and have a little conversation. So, I'm C Michael Lanning, graphic translator, mass scribbler, and host here at Dispatches, ready to introduce you to our panel.
What's
Go
up,
ahead,
everybody?
introduce yourself. Hey.
Hi, I'm Mitch Rogers. I'm a horror comics creator, writer, artist, and publisher from Greenville, South Carolina, known for The Boger in the Flesh and Blood collection.
All right. So when I say stop motion animation, Mitch, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Wallace and Gromit.
Wow! Oh, wow, that's a good one. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw Wallace and Gromit. It was I don't know, Oh Canada or something like that. That was on Cartoon Network years ago, and it was about one of the funniest.
I think they played them on
shorts ever
MTV
did.
for a short time. Also, I think
Probably. Wallace and Gromit was all around kind of a. You didn't have an age group for Wallace and Gromit. It was really. It was good. I'm glad to see they picked up some popularity there before they stopped making them. But let's see, we got some other people in here. Let's bring them out. The familiar face.
Hey,
Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Hey, everybody. I'm Randy Zimmerman. I'm a longtime alternative and indie comics producer, creator. Did Arrow Comics and freelance for many other independent and alternative comic companies. I've retailed for over a decade. I've coordinated conventions for over a decade, done just about everything in this business that you can imagine, and just love being part of the Indie Comics Network. I do the ZimmCast that's on Wednesday nights at 10 p.m., the Comics by Night show that's on 5 a.m. on Fridays, Eastern Standard Time. And on Sundays, we have the Sunday Funnies, where we talk about the books that we love. That's on Sundays at 9 a.m. But other than that, I'm also EIC of Arrow Comics. And we have a lot of things planned for next year. And right now, we're just closing out the Rift Writers campaign over on Indiegogo. So,
how long do you have left on that one?
The Arrow, with an Arrow tier on that, where you can get a set of Arrow books. I think we've got like 7 hours left on that show, or on that campaign. That I'm not sure if Luke's taking that to in demand or not. So we just crossed the 10,000 mark. So go out there now and take a look before if he decides to close it down. I'm pretty sure he is, because he's got a lot of other stuff going on. Go over there and take a good look at that campaign. This might be your last chance. Thanks.
All right, awesome. So Randy, like I asked Mitch, when I say stop motion. What comes to mind for you?
Harryhausen, right off the bat.
Harryhausen,
All those great, some of those shows that you showed at the start of the program, Jason and the Argonauts, Earth versus the Flying Saucers. Just when I was a kid, that was Saturday afternoon for me. And if a Harryhausen movie was on, I was there. Didn't matter how many times I'd seen it.
Are you familiar with the cartoon show Gravity Falls?
I am basically familiar with it. I can't say I've ever watched a whole episode of it, though.
They had an episode, and I can't remember if they were using Harryhausen's name or not, where they actually went to his house, and all the clay figures and everything he had made over the years, like the skeletons and stuff like that, started to attack them.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
That's pretty neat.
In animation form or in live action form?
No, they were in the claymation were in live action. I think they were animated.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, the very first comic convention I ever attended was a comics triple fanfare down in Detroit, and Harryhausen was a guest of honor.
Oh, neat.
And they had a bunch of those models in glass cases in a room that you could walk through and take a look at. It's amazing.
I'd be scared to walk through it. I'd probably trip over something.
It's like a museum. So yeah.
And last but not least, Mr. John Silvestri, how are you, sir?
I'm fine. How are you all doing this evening?
Oh, good. Good.
All right. So I'm John Silvestri. I'm a classic, old school 2D animator, comic book creator. I'm creating the Bloodwing Angels Chronicles. In the past, I animated Boba Fett in the Star Wars Holiday Special, Dragon's Lair, Space Ace, Rock and Rule, He-Man, She-Ra. I'm bringing all that into my comic books today. And I'm still alive, and I'm working.
Awesome. There you go. So the same question, and I think I know what the answer is going to be. When I say stop motion animation, what comes to mind for you?
Okay, well, yes, everybody has said that, but I will say Willis O'Brien, King Kong. He's the granddaddy.
There you go.
I mean, he actually did he did a silent version of The Lost World, and that was before King Kong. I mean, it was. Yeah, go ahead.
No, so he was kind of the pioneer into the stop motion.
Well, yeah. Well, other people did it before him, but once again, he's the first one to do it on a massive scale, where he got an Academy Award for King Kong.
Oh wow.
So I mean, but that is, and it's a huge thing. I mean, but Ray Harryhausen was also was as an apprentice with him.
Okay.
So there's a direct line right there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Let me say hey to the chat real quick. I'm going to pull something up. So Donna says, hey, guys. Hello, Donna. And Carl, yay. Grant Lankard says hello. Hello, Grant. And Carl says, it's an all-star cast tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But speaking of King Kong, let's take a look at this real quick.
Oh, one of the best scenes of the movie.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you always see the and you're not going to get any sound. Well, I am, but you always see the Empire scene, the Empire State Building scene.
This is one of the great scenes. I mean, the fight here. I mean, there's blood curdling.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a fluidness in it that's really amazing. Of course, it always amazes me when I see that kind of stuff, like the split screen with the same actors playing themselves. That was going on way back then. So
yeah, that's 1933.
Yeah,
and there was a certain amount of cartooniness to it, but there was a believability to it. I mean, and you could feel the weight.
Yeah.
You look at this and I'm sorry, I'm putting on my old man hat.
That's all right.
In comparison to CGI, this has more weight than computer-generated graphics.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with that. Yes. Well, I ask you now. This is kind of they're coming out of the silent movie era, and they kind of had to over exaggerate their acting as far as actors are concerned.
But you don't exaggerate this stuff. I mean, you have to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like I think that's what I'm saying. Is it because of the silent film era, or is it just simply because they had to put that extra oomph in there to really convey the?
Well, how else would you convey it?
That's true.
I mean, I think this is about as without getting into the elements of what they actually were. But I mean, like throwing a punch and what he's done. I mean, there's a scene here where once he finally gets him down. I mean, there is a straining going on here. There's biting. There's all kinds of choreography here that looks like a Mike Tyson movie. Fight.
Yeah, right.
I wonder if they acted this out beforehand to kind of get a
I don't think
feel of how it's supposed to go.
I would imagine they had it all storyboarded out before they started doing anything on it.
Oh, yeah.
They knew exactly where they were going. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, first off, they would have there are storyboards of it. I had the book of the making of King Kong, and they showed all of the storyboards, all of the various elements in it. How they pull it. I mean, there's a humor to this. Also, he's playing around with the jaw. There's so much going on there, but it's also, it's kind of like it's not just he hit him and he hit and he blew up and that's that. There is a subtlety of acting that you get from being part of the next stage from silent movies. And you look at it and you go, okay, how did they do it? Well, they timed it all. And it wasn't just a rough timing. They had a stopwatch because all of that material, I mean, you time it and you have a general idea of what you want to do, but there's no motion capture here. There's no rotoscoping in this. You can't do rotoscoping. So therefore you storyboard the thing, but then you start you have to do it straight ahead. But you hit certain posts, like you might hit saying, okay, I need to you might start with a smaller model and you play around with that and you figure out where your basic poses are going to be so that you know where to reach at a certain point within so many frames, and then you can then manipulate it because it's not so evenly timed. It's like there's not a lot of exact, mechanical movement. There's still a lot of subtle motion. Anyway, sorry.
But also hardcore meticulous work. I mean, they were sitting there moving at a fraction, taking a frame, moving at another fraction, taking it a frame at a time. That's what stop motion is all about. But back then, literally pioneering the idea, behind doing it and improving on what had been already done in the silent era.
Yeah. And a lot of this was done. A lot of that is 2 frames a second.
Yeah,
it's not 1 frame a second. So they're doing instead of doing 24 frames, poses, movement. They did, 12. Every 2 frames, every movement was 2 frames shot, and then so you did 12 movements within for a second of motion versus 24. it was so laborious. It was an incredible amount, but it didn't, you didn't worry about it because it was there. It was all there, and it was new.
There had to be a tremendous amount of accomplishment when you spent that time moving those models for as long a period as you did, and you could see that on screen moving like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There just had to be some a weight of accomplishment to that.
Not just that, but imagine going to a theater and seeing that large on the screen. This is 1933, like 3-4 years into actual talkies.
Yeah.
And they're getting this far advanced in the science of cinema.
Yes.
That, to the point, it literally, it was the Star Wars New Hope of its day. It blew people's minds when it come out.
Oh, yeah.
It was so amazing.
Yeah. The next thing after that was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah.
4 years later, 4 or 5 years later. That's but you still didn't have blue screen. Everything was still shot. Back you had a back shoot in the screen behind you, and then you back it up. You'd have a mat, and you do all kinds of stuff there to be able to combine the two.
Mm-hmm.
Live act. Well, for example, when you had Miriam, the gal. Fay Ray.
Yeah.
She's up in a little corner here. She's up on a stage, and while they're behind them, everything's going like crazy. And she's going
You're reacting to basically nothing.
It's about if you thought that here you are. Remember, if you were the first time you saw, at least I saw, the Empire, the Star Cruiser coming over your head the first time in the second row of some 40-foot. This is the kind of impression that you had back then.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, even still, looking at it now, even almost 100 years later, you can still see the amount of work, and it's still incredible to see, considering knowing what the process is, or having a basic idea of the process, not knowing it all the way, what they did with that to make it look so fluid. Even
not just that,
but
the entire movie is timeless. I mean, it holds up like you wouldn't believe. It's definitely a period piece. A lot of it's dated, but the effects aren't, like toilet paper tubes and rolling smoke and stuff like that. They hold up incredibly well on the screen, big or small.
Yeah. And the thing about it is that one of the things that holds that is the personality of Kong.
Mm-hmm.
You start feeling for him because of what he's going through, and that is a feat to do with a little, with like a 2-foot tall little, stuffed toy,
doll or whatever, right?
With dollops and everything, So anyway,
the stuffed toy is putting it kindly, but it's lots of joints.
It is very jointed. It is manipulated.
Just amazing, technological stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see when you see the screen, you could see where the fingers have been moving the fur, because it gives it a life. It gives it a texture and a life that you wouldn't get with just an encased, like a hard shelled, piece of let's say a digital material.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Nick in
how you
the
doing?
chat. Got JD Estapo. I refuse to continue watching the show where C is not wearing a hat. Oh my! Sometimes not.
Yeah.
And then Carl says, "Imagine bending over to move one of the monsters and knocking over one of the trees."
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sure that happened.
Was.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they had it already filmed. They had it all marked. If something got knocked, they knew that they had to put it right back in place.
Yeah, but sometimes if there was a problem, if they had to reshoot it for something happened, those scenes are long.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 Long in production. I mean, you'd lose days pretty easily.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely.
And again, what a beautiful, beautiful piece of work. You know, the whole movie, like I said, still holds up today. If you ever get a chance to see the original, definitely do that and compare it to the Peter Jackson remake.
Yeah, they keep trying to remake it, and it's never as good.
I
as
never
the original.
finished
Never
Peter
as good.
Jackson remake.
Did you see the Jeff Bridges one?
Years ago.
70s from the where he's on the World Trade Center.
Yeah, that was.
I can't
the
say
guy
I've
in
ever
the
sat
suit
through
isn't
that
as good as the original stop motion.
Well, you know, you had a guy in a monkey suit, so that was, you know, I mean, that's
right. So there wasn't. But that's the thing, and that has to say something, because when you think of King Kong, that's the image that comes up is that 1933. Despite it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't. The Peter Jackson movie didn't stick. The Jeff who was it?
Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges and Lang, Jennifer Lang. Yeah.
Jessica Lang.
Yeah, you're right. Jessica Lang.
Yeah. I don't remember seeing that one, but that's not what comes to mind. These new ones weren't doing either. CGI just, even still, what amazes me is that you had such a fluid movement in these still models that they still haven't been able to really capture in a CGI capacity. Even with the it's not rotoscoping, but you know the light, motion capture.
Motion cap. Yeah. Every film they do, though, they learn a little bit more, depending upon the actual film budget. You know, sometimes they get a little cheap.
He did the one with Jeff Bridges in it.
Yeah,
that sounds about right. Yeah,
that was in the 70s. World Trade Center. You don't see that around anywhere anymore.
No.
Every once in a while, it'll appear on some.
Do you ever see the one with the Peter Jackson one anymore?
No,
I can't really see.
I think it pops up on streaming every once in a while. I think it wasn't too long ago. It was on one of them, one of the platforms. Black. Yeah.
Yes, Jack is
Rachel. Not Rachel. Rachel Watts, and Adrian Brody.
Rachel or Naomi?
Naomi Watts. Man, I'm having a brain fart.
I just remember Serkis being in that. Andy. Yeah. I think Andy Serkis was in that.
Yeah, he also played Kong too. Well, the motion capture.
Yes. He was the chef, wasn't he? With the cigar. That's the movie that I look at and I was like, yeah, he could have been a good Wolverine. Actually,
he could have. He could still be a good Wolverine if Disney knows what's good for him.
Jackman's not giving up that role for a while, though. So.
Oh no, I'm sure not.
Yeah,
but would you?
And don't get me wrong, Peter Jackson's movie is a good movie. It's just compared to the original, it's not. It's nothing.
You just can't.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Great.
Let's see if I can get this up. Come on now. I got to find the right. All right. So this guy decided he was going to take this and kind of, I think he added a couple more, what you call it, John?
Skeletons?
Frames,
okay.
and some stop motion. And some, what did he say? Smooth stop. It was some kind of moving thing. So this is the original.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Yeah.
And now here it is smoother. And really, to me, it just...
Wait a minute. Do that again.
Yeah. All right. Here's the original. Well, hold on.
That's the original.
Yep.
And now it's a smooth.
And he has a motion blur to it. Which, I mean, really, it just looks sped up, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because really what you're doing is you're basically adding drawings in between there, and just moving things about. And there is a difference in terms of how there's an energy where there is a staccato, okay? and then when you start blurring it and smoothing it out, it sort of actually makes it blander.
I can see that. Yeah. But I think I will say this: what it does do is kind of helps highlight how meticulous they were with the movement.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I think I prefer the original than I would anything done to it.
Yeah. If you were to take, let's put it this way. Okay. I'm gonna be stupid about this.
All right.
It's like okay, so you had the movement on in 2 frames, okay, and they were doing that, okay, they did that whole stuff, or even if they did it on once, but they add twice as many frames in it. It's kind of like taking a painting and redoing it, adding more brush strokes in between brush strokes of the painting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, why? Yeah. To what extent? Here's the original. Okay.
Well, yeah, because here they are. Okay. They're making something, and they're dealing with, like I said earlier, they're dealing with the tools that they have, and they're dealing with what they have, and they're making the best out of it, and they did a damn good job of it. Yeah. And coming back to do it, and adding modern tools to it, kind of takes exactly what Grady said. It takes the charm out of it. It's not.
Yeah. Grady the dinosaur goes to lunch.
Well, there's a lot to be said for just some things just need to be left alone. That's why you don't want to remake certain movies, because it's going to detract from the magic and the love of the original.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, The Wicker Man's a good example. If you ever seen the original movie, it is a great movie.
There's a whole list.
Yeah.
I've seen Nicolas Cage one.
Watch the original. It has Christopher Lee in it.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go. Can't lose.
I was watching the interview earlier, kind of off the subject, but I was watching an interview earlier on BBC with Vincent Price, which is a funny guy, believe it or not. Yeah. And he was talking about people coming up to him and asking him to bite them. He said, eventually he started to. So
he never played a vampire.
I said, well, did you do it? Yeah, did you do it? Well, yeah, I did bite her on the leg. No, just crazy stuff. He said there was one person that they are in an airport. Woman comes up to him and is like, "Oh, I know you," and he's like, "Yes, yeah, you're Boris Karloff." And he's like, "Man, Boris Karloff's is dead, at this point, I guess." And of course, they did a couple of movies together, but and and she's like, "No, I know you actors. You'll have to pretend to be somebody else." It's crazy. Let's see.
Okay.
Nicholas says most media that contains the World Trade Center has not really shown since 9/11.
Yep.
Well, you can't erase history. I mean, that's just how it is. Those fixes don't show up well in a small format. Probably was better on the big screen.
Maybe, yeah.
It could be.
Could
be. The original Clash of the Titans needed no adjustment.
That is a good movie.
But the movie was great, but there were some scenes there with the mechanical owl that I remember the first time I saw it. It looked a little jerky, but it's still Harryhausen, and it's any movie that Harryhausen did is more than worth watching. So,
well, the Clash of the Titans was his last one, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Maybe. Yeah, it was 1980, 81.
He came off of 2 or 3 Sinbad movies, and then did that. Yeah.
What made him? He was just retired, or?
Well, you do stop motion like that and see how much it takes out.
Yeah, I get it. Right?
He did it all.
That is work intensive. I'm telling you. Yeah, and he did. He did it all out of his garage or out of a little studio. Yeah.
Oh, so he was by himself. I mean, I think he had maybe like sculptors, but that's.
Yeah, but he still did all the. You do 60 minutes worth of that. Just think of that
for 4 months, right?
More than 4
You're
months.
lucky if it's 4 months.
Yeah,
very lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have
you look at these movies like A Nightmare Before Christmas in Coraline, the stuff that they do now, entire studio groups of people working multiple cameras on multiple sets over, trying to barely hit a deadline. It's just really work intensive.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nicholas, I did stop motion back when I was in high school. My art teacher set me up with an animation table and a camera, and I took some shards of shreds of metal and plopped them down in front of the camera and then moved them inch by inch until they all scattered around and then left the board. That was a lot of fun to do, but it was very time and work intensive.
Yeah,
in order to get it all to stay right. And even then, it didn't have anything close to the fluidity of King Kong or anything Harryhausen did. So,
well, it had that bounce that John likes to talk about in the animation, that recoil bounce.
Yeah,
that was that's pretty interesting.
Squash and stretch. There's all kinds of and variation of timing instead of it just being a mechanical same pacing all the way through. There's a zip. There's so many different ways that you time the everything was timed so that you knew on the exposure sheet. I mean, a classic 2D animation is you're timing the exposure sheet and you know what to beat at and you know how to how fast you're going to move something and then swing it over so that you go pop. You can't just do it. You can't just say, "Oh, I'll put it over there." You have to know what you're going to do. You choreograph everything.
Yeah.
Otherwise, all you're going to have is a lot of mud.
Yeah.
Jerkiness.
You have at a certain point, and I'm sure they did a lot. They did a lot of tests. Basic things until they knew what they were going to do. They did cheat. They did. The King Kong, the first head, the big head of Kong at some point was a mechanical head. They did have that at some point in the 33. They did do that, but they hardly used it. I mean, and the hand coming up, and poking, you could.
Oh well, yeah.
When Kong puts his finger in the skyscraper comes through, you can kind of see when the fourth finger is coming in, and the guy hits it with a table, a chair, and it kind of ricochets a little. You get the old bending going on there.
That thing had to be massive, huh?
Yeah. Oh, it was. Yeah.
I'd assume. I mean, it was going to be, quote unquote life size. Yeah, I'm sure it was. Pretty
right.
big.
Yeah. I wonder what that is. It's probably have some kind of Hollywood collector has that stored in his. I'm
sure.
The majority of that stuff is decayed over time, and when the movie was done, they never thought that they would any of that stuff would be remotely collectible.
Yeah.
If I remember right, there was one of the Kongs that was left, and it was an incredibly, incredibly poor shape that somebody was trying to preserve.
Yeah,
I mean, it had just decayed over time.
Yeah,
I saw an interview with Forrest J. Ackerman one time, and he had this little, just like skeleton of a thing, and someone said, the interview asked him, "What is that?" He goes, "Oh, this is one of the original King Kongs. It was just the skeleton, like the skin had rotted off and everything."
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, because if I'm
probably
mistaken,
saw the same thing.
I think the director of Nightmare Before Christmas. Now that you said that, he has like a statue or a piece like Jack Skellington and maybe Sally, but he has to have them redone like every so many years because they will actually start to decompose. Decay. So
it's fur, it's all that kind of stuff, and just. It just molts,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that they even used. I mean, they did Kong, and then they did Son of Kong, and then Mighty Joe Young.
Mm-hmm.
All with Willis O'Brien.
I've never seen Mighty Joe Young.
Never.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a fun. You could see how he had developed over 16 years. I think Mighty Joe Young is like 1949 or something like that. So over 16 years, because he did Son of Kong 2 years later,
Mhm.
You know, they go back to Skull Island and they find, this baby, the giant.
Do
That
they
makes
find
sense.
Mrs. Kong?
I don't
How does
know.
that work?
I don't think they did. No.
No, well, he was he wasn't a one woman person.
Hey,
You know,
there's a whole bunch of Mrs. Kongs.
All wanting alimony.
They don't call it Skull Island for nothing.
Yeah, yeah, right. There you go.
Huh.
Let's see. Let me put up some things Nick said here. Nick says, look up Comedy of Terrors and The Raven, Vincent Price, Lortia,
And any of those
Boris
old
Karloff.
movies during in those days, Hammer films especially, you can't go wrong, especially on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
Just sit there and watch some Christopher Lee Draculas and Peter Cushing, and just phenomenal stuff.
The Raven is if you actually go back and watch that, that's a very young Jack Nicholson that was in that. So it's
Yeah.
He was in,
yeah,
him
the
and
Corman
Charles
one.
Bronson were in Little Shop of Horrors as well.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
And
It had to be right after that. Yeah.
I just saw The House of Wax a few months ago. That also had a really young Charles Bronson in it.
Yeah, as the assistant.
Yeah, that's the assistant.
Let's see. I have done a few very short projects on my YouTube channel, and once I get my studio area set up, I plan to renew my efforts. Go for it.
There you go.
Yep.
So in those days, they would have to wait to see the dailies at the end of the day.
Oh,
You couldn't run
Yeah.
it back on tape or digital like today.
no,
No,
no.
absolutely. They'd have to go
That's
get
what
it
I was-
developed.
When I was watching the skeleton fighting scene in Jason and the Argonauts, and I was thinking to myself, like, I remember movies used to take more than 3 months to put together, because now you could hear about a movie and it took about 1 or 2 years before you actually saw it come out. Nowadays, it's I don't say instantaneous, but it's a lot quicker than it used to be. So
And
I
if
can only
I'm
imagine
not
then.
mistaken, that particular scene was very labor intensive because you had a lot of skeletons moving at once, matching up with a lot of film.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
you had 5. I think it was 5 swordsmen. With Jason and his Argonauts, and I think there was 7 skeletons. You got 12 bodies that are choreographed
In motion. Yeah,
It's a masterful job.
it is.
they did the same thing with that, but I'm not going to pull that up. I'm because I'm not going to. This is an abomination. I mean, I'm glad somebody appreciated it enough to give it, to look at it. But I think they kind of missed the point of the charm of it. But I'm gonna pull up the fight real quick, because the fact is, one thing about the King Kong was, like that fight. They still interacted with people here, but like the big,
Figure, yeah.
yeah. But the thing about this fight that's really phenomenal is the way that they interact and choreograph with real people in this fight.
Yep.
And
Oh, yeah.
it's just, this should inspire you. I gotta pull it up here. This should inspire you to work hard at what you do. Oh, this isn't even the beginning of it. Where we go? I might not be able to show the whole thing.
No, but just the idea of throwing the dragon's teeth out from the skull onto the field and then having them rise up out of the ground, it's just amazing. This stuff had a big impact on me in my youth.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, there's your
Right there,
there's
look at
your
How do
classic.
you match that? That's just
And another
great stuff.
Yeah, it's just,
And then they go.
look, that's the inspiration for every metal band in the late 70s, early
Yeah.
80s.
Oh yeah.
Well, this movie is the biggest inspiration Sam Raimi had for Army of Darkness.
Oh yeah,
Oh
definitely.
yeah, well yeah. Did he use stop? Did he use stop motion for that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he also used stop
It's
motion
been
for
years.
Evil
I saw that
Dead
in the movie
2.
theater. That's the last time I saw it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Evil
Well-
Dead 2 also had some stop motion to it.
Oh, this is not, come on. This is a great scene, but I just want to get to the fight so people can see the this right
Just
here.
looking at how the skeletons move and yeah, there you go.
And they're meeting sword for sword. This is not. They're just chopping and everybody's going one way or another.
Yeah, I kind of wonder what they did first, the acting or the animation.
Yeah. No. They did the acting first, and they choreographed it, and they were acting and making believe,
Well,
and then you had that material to work with as an animator. You were pacing. See, that's the whole thing, is that you had a timing to lock onto. You had to react, or your actor was reacting to something that they were doing. So you, as an animator, you had something to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Now I wonder if some of these, surely not all of it, because I think like the skeleton rolling over him and everything like that. But surely this was kind of that split screen thing we were talking about too. They might have had like stuntmen fighting with the actors. No,
not at this point.
No, you
No,
didn't,
because you'd see it if it was.
Yeah.
You can't. You did not have that kind of situation. What you did was you had a 3-tiered level. Okay, you had the background. They're on the background. Then they got the foreground here, and then you've got your skeletons, and you played around with it that way. But the actors are all. This is all beautiful stuff. What they would do is use mats. They would paint certain areas on glass. Okay. And then behind that would be the actor, so that or in front of it, so that you'd have to put it all together in camera and bypack it.
For example, you see there in that tight shot, you don't really see the ground, but you see the background. The background's probably painted. He probably was on a movie studio when they shot that.
No, that's not what I meant. What I mean is that there is a mat that is painted. Okay, you shoot certain areas. You shoot it on a glass screen.
Okay,
and then certain areas that are painted over, so that when you know what you're painting. You see, okay, and then you run it again, and then when you then do a second run, you run it against the other side, which has been painted black, so that you could see the front. So when you combine them together, you get a completed 100. You get 50% and 50%, and you add it together, you get 100%. That's the best way I can explain it to you. But it's kind of like okay, if you have layers on your computer, okay, and you ran your timeline with just one layer, but you plan to have 3, okay, and what you're doing is every time you run your timeline with separate layers, that means that you don't have those other layers. Then when you put them all together, you then get the completed film.
Right.
Okay.
It's complicated, but it's simple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sounds like it would be.
But what's amazing to me is just the fact that they were able to. They were able to get it done. That went into that. Yeah.
It's magic on the scale of Las Vegas. What's his name?
Like Siegfried and Roy type stuff.
Yeah, that's right. It's magic. That's right.
It's brilliant, is what it is. It's just brilliant.
Yeah.
Carl says acting first. Holy moly.
Mm-hmm.
And Nicholas says Aardman's Wallace and Gromit series are brilliant as well if you want to see fun, clever, modern stop motion.
Yeah.
We talked about that earlier. And so Carl has like a Pepper's Ghost illusion.
Huh?
I guess
I'm not sure what a Pepper's Ghost illusion is.
Pepper's Ghost used to be. Pepper's Ghost is like. Have you ever seen that movie, The Illusionist, with Edward Norton?
Yeah.
Oh, a long time ago.
And what they would do is
give you room.
It would they would project something. It was kind of like I can't remember. Don't ask me the mechanics of it. I'm not a mechanic, but they would project somebody where it kind of looked like a ghost or a specter. And and this is the Pepper's Ghost. They're kind of doing it now with they had what Tupac a few years back singing after he's been
holograms. Yeah.
It was just a trick of the light. It was a lot of shysters or in the late 1800s, early 1900s, where they would go around and do spirit shows. You remember how around Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, all that, they were really into spiritualism and stuff. So they would use that.
Mary Todd Lincoln, there's that famous image of her sitting down and you see the ghost of Abraham Lincoln behind her, holding his hands on her shoulder.
Yeah, which is probably was. Yeah, it was probably somebody who was dressed up as them, or whatever the case is, and they casted it enough. It was just a trick of the light and everything. So, but it's really hard for me to explain and try to, a lot of times the sheet of glass that is painted is between the camera as a foreground. Yeah. Literal glass layers. Larry Blademore still uses that technique in Return of the Lost Skeleton. They shoot on glass to superimpose layers on the film.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So now I don't want to. I mean, we're seeing it now, and we see it in animation. When I grew up, we had the Rankin and Bass. You had your Christmas thing. Santa Claus is coming to town, or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah.
But they're not really using it that much for special effects anymore, huh?
Too easy to lean back on computers.
Oh yeah.
They can get it done a lot cheaper.
It's all a thing of just they don't. It is an art form. It is a craft, and also it's taste.
Mm-hmm.
The only time they'll do it is to goof. They'll do the version of Gumby or Mr. Bill. Or David and Goliath.
My gosh, Mr. Bill.
Hello, Davey. Yeah.
Oh, see, that's stuff
that
and that's stuff that doesn't register to me. Gumby did, obviously, but not when I was a kid. It doesn't register to me as being stop motion. It was that kind of a magic. It didn't have somebody.
I'm Gumby, damn it. I'm Gumby, damn it.
Mr. Bill skits me. He's gonna be mean to me. But there and some people, like I was saying earlier, Gravity Falls, which is a cartoon that came out a couple of years back, they did one, and I want to say they mentioned Harryhausen, or it was somebody that was like that, and they were showing the they were showing the claymation and everything, the claymation things that come to life, the stop motion. And I keep saying claymation, but this stuff, if ever, was rarely ever made out of clay. I'm not quite sure where that term came from. Why we call
manipulation,
it claymation.
Be able to move things around and develop stuff. Being able to play around with it. That's clay. I mean, they refer to it as claymation. Because the clay was the first thing that they could play with. Play-Doh. I mean, they do all kinds of things with it.
Oh yeah.
Like the raisins, the California raisins.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That stuff was everywhere. It used to be everywhere.
Oh yeah, Davy and Goliath.
I don't know how much of a time, because it is still really well-known show, and them Lutherans, man. No, I have no idea.
Yeah,
never know. But again, another program I watched in my misspent youth.
Oh yeah, well, it's amazing to me how
on Sundays.
I always love that dog.
And always boring.
Yeah, I don't want to eat those biscuits. Yeah.
Well, these shows were very, very family friendly. It's kind of surprising how popular they were, believe it or not. Like Gumby. Gumby was around for years and years and years.
Well, it's kind of like Rocky and Bullwink for the 2-year-olds.
Yeah. More like the 5-year-olds, but yeah.
Well, I was watching them when I was 2 years old. I mean, TV screen didn't faze me. A cathoid I mean, I needed eyeglasses when I was 3.
Yeah. Right? Carl said the Lutheran hit squad is on its way now. Deploy,
Oh, no.
deploy. JD Calderon, thank God Pixar saved us. Just joking. Hello, everyone. Did anyone mention
Just
Mad
poking
God?
you guys, yes.
Oh, that's an awesome movie.
Mad God.
Yeah,
I
it's
meant to watch
stop
that, I forgot
motion.
about it.
It's if you have Shutter, it's on Shutter.
Okay.
Let's see if I can find
Yeah,
it.
the guy that did it worked on like Empire Strikes Back and a lot of like big budget special effects heavy movies, and he animated the movie over 30 years, I think. Like it took a long time for him to get done. It's all except for like 2 scenes at stop motion animation.
Well, there was still a little bit of stop motion in all of the early 4, 5, and 6 Star Wars
Oh, yeah.
movies.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
of that. The snow blizzard sequences and
Yeah,
whatnot.
the Battle
And
of
even the
Hoth.
mechanic, even the walkers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
all.
the
That's all
AT-AT
stop
and
motion.
that's all
ATSTs.
stop motion. Yeah.
But didn't you say he did this for like how many years?
30, close to 30 years.
Close
it
to
took
30
him.
years.
Holy crap.
Did Jurassic Park? Yeah, I don't have sound, so you
Comes a nightmare. 30
Well, it
years
might-
in the making.
Well, it might get copyright struck if you play the sound.
True
anyway.
that. True. But this is
Let's add our
I'll
own.
have to go take a look at this. I really need to watch this.
Look at that.
Yeah. Like that looks like a
That was the nurse was
Live
live
action?
action.
okay.
It's like
Yeah.
2 scenes are live action, I think.
They shouldn't have put
At
a
least
Kathleen
2.
Kennedy quote in there, but okay.
This is over on Shutter, huh? I'm gonna have to go over there and watch it now. A Shutter original.
Yeah, well, original as in they bought the rights to stream it.
Right? Yeah, like just like Netflix and their original.
That's Warner
stuff
Brothers,
before.
actually, right?
Uh,
See that
that's,
W.
that's
Shutter is
Mighty
AMC.
Joe Young. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's Mighty Joe Young.
Yeah, no, I pulled it up to take a look at it because you said that you could see the differences. This is the trailer.
Yeah.
These things are a lot smoother. They came a long way.
Yeah.
Stop motion
yeah.
technique. Yeah.
I can just imagine if they had made this a principal special effect, where we would be today.
Well, it was a principal special.
Yeah, he
effect
was,
until
yes.
computers come along.
No, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. If we had made it, if it remained,
Well, I would go back to the practical effects days. It's very rare
Yeah.
that you see a stop motion movie anymore. At Coraline, there's probably been 3 or 4 of them since then, but not very many because it's so labor intensive, and that labor means money. So
Yeah.
oh,
they want to keep those costs down.
Yeah.
About the closest to regular stop motion animation you would see anymore is Robot Chicken.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. That is true. That's another one.
And even that's got little paper mouths that they paste on for dialogue and stuff.
If you look at those first 3 and in the Ray Harryhausen, they're not goofing on anything.
No. It's
And
very
that's the
serious.
problem, is that so much of the story that uses stop motion and whatnot is goofing on it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, it's not taking it seriously, playing it seriously. I don't mean taking themselves seriously to the point of, this is high drama, but they play it straight. And that's what happens, I mean, maybe it's jadedness and whatnot, but if you're doing a really good story where there's character development and it's not just special effects and it's not just screams and for the sake of blood,
Right.
it's the taste of the producers that are here's what we got, and so here's what the audience has to eat.
I'm hoping to see. This is a film that came out a couple of years back, or 4 or 5 years back.
Yeah, that was
had a lot
Leica.
of accolades. Leica was
That was
the
Leica did
production
that one.
company.
Yeah, that's the
And-
company that did Coraline and Paranorman and all that.
Yeah, and just this, and maybe, and I'm hoping this kind of made a
Remove all ads. Even the fur on that is animated. That's sweet. Stop motion.
Yeah, and that's like, and hopefully this was kind of inspired, because this was, if you haven't seen this is a gorgeous movie. It really was. It had a good story to it, and just the amount of work that they put into it. Am I wrong? Mitch, you've seen it.
Oh, it
right?
looks amazing.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's a lot of like Japanese mythology is added to it and stuff like that. So it's really good. They really took their time with both the story and the animation, which, nowadays it's either story or animation. You rarely get both.
Yeah.
And those are going to kind of be your, they're not going to be too frequent. You might get your Jim in the rough or what have you here and there, because it takes so long to make them. But so maybe appreciate it a little bit more. But let's see. I pulled this up too. I've probably got all sorts of copyright strikes coming.
Yeah, like most of the practical effects, though, it's very quickly becoming a lost art. Like super marionation and all of that other great stuff that they did in order to that computers ended up replacing.
Yeah, well, I'm not asking that everything be this way or that way or whatever the case is, but at least have some the art still alive. Like see. Just making all of those.
Yeah.
For maybe what? 2 words?
Yeah.
And of course this came in what, 1992? 91?
92 or 93.
Yeah, and it's still before computer generated and computer generation that would be as well. I mean, what is it? Toy Story had just maybe was getting ready to get.
Look at that computer. That says everything right there.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, right.
You couldn't do it. You didn't have color, the ability to do all that.
No.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see, really if it maintained, become, an art that was revered, where it would be today, even still. Just in the progress that we saw between King Kong and Mighty Joe Young, imagine that over the past 30 years. Yeah,
Well,
this is true too. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is going to be stop motion. That is right. Yep.
Yeah.
And that took
That's
a while
one I
to
have
get
to
that
see.
too.
I haven't seen that
actually. It's on out ESL. I think
still coming.
Yeah,
Get
I
it
think
mixed
it's
up
in
with the Tom
December.
Hanks Pinocchio mess. So
Oh
Yeah,
no,
that one doesn't exist in my opinion.
yeah.
What? No.
Ooh, what?
Yeah.
What?
Exactly.
No.
I just got done watching Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities, and that was amazing.
Was it? That's cool.
I watched the first one.
That's
I
on
haven't
our
seen
list.
The rest of them yet.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway,
So-
back
I
on
think
topic.
that Tom Hanks, the Pinocchio goes with his was it the train, whatever it was.
Polar
the other thing they
Express.
did with stop
Polar
motion.
Express.
Oh, I think Polar Express is going to have a lot longer life than that Pinocchio movie.
Yeah,
Already
Polar
has,
Express was, I think,
Polar
all
Express.
motion
Wait,
capture.
did he play Pinocchio too? He was
No,
Geppetto,
he-
Pinocchio?
he was
He
Geppetto.
played Geppetto.
I know he played like everybody in that Polar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Express
every
movie.
single person practically was Tom
Look.
Hanks.
When that movie came out, I was working in the movie theater, and I remember having to see it. It's like, I didn't watch the whole thing, but it was just scary looking at it. It's like, what is this? I can't. But that's what's crazy. If you go back, talking computers versus stop motion, you could go back and look at stop motion, and it still looks good, and it's still. But you go back and you look at computer generated, and you're kind of like,
Well, everything's still in the
doesn't-
working up stage too. Stop motions had decades of refinement, where the computer animation, like they've got on Polar Express, is just totally unsettling because they tried to go too realistic with it. They've since
Very
pulled back
unsettling.
from that. I think Tintin's the last movie that you're going to see done in that Polar Express fashion. What was it? The The one that Zemeckis did that cost him his career. Mars Needs Moms.
Mars Needs Moms.
Moms,
Yes.
yeah, that killed it right there because of the amount of time and money spent on it, and the fact that it didn't do anything at the theater, and that the all of the reports they got back on it was that the animation was ooky.
It was creepy.
And
it was really
so
creepy.
they pulled away from that. Now you've got stuff like Despicable Me, where no way the minions are ever going to look, 100% real. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, just like for instance, the animation that they used in the Spider-Verse, and what was it, Marshalls versus the Machines or something like that, the Mitchells versus the Machines, whereas it's a mix between the animation and CGI. But they're still learning that they got to depend on something else outside of computer animation. It really.
Oh yeah.
But here, let's take a couple bumps, and we'll come back and we'll talk about how that it inspired us in our creative endeavors. So we'll be right back.
Now on Sunday mornings, longtime independent comics creator Randy Zimmerman brings to you a podcast that talks about the lighter and more whimsical side of comics, the fun side of comics. That's right. Sunday Funnies is back Sunday morning, 9 a.m. on the Indie Comics Network on YouTube. Check it out. Special guests, great comic talk, good times. See you there.
When your timeline reaches its Armageddon, what's a kid to do?
I'm not a...
Snag the keys to your mom's experimental ship, of course.
That's not quite how it happened.
Drift aimlessly in the rift between dimensions, trying to figure out how to operate it.
Now hold on a sec.
Pick up a few hitchhikers.
Hi! Hello.
And maybe solve a disturbing mystery that could lead to the destruction of reality itself.
If this time... There's always time.
I'm not so sure about that.
Get in on the adventure with the Rift Riders on Indiegogo.
Have a question or comment for us to address on the show? Have a topic you want us to talk about? Email us at indiecomicsnetwork@gmail.com. Want your comics to arrive in pristine condition? Head over to GeminiComicSupply.com and save 10% on your next Gemini mailer order or anything in the Gemini Comics Supply store. Use coupon code RAGIN10. That's RAGIN 10.
All right. So John, did that help inspire you to get into animation, doing the stop motion, or was it just?
Oh, it was just part of my youth. I mean, you had that. I remember watching these movies, and we had it was a local channel, WOR, who ran the $1 Million Movie, and they ran the same movie 2 times a day at night, 7 days a week, like it was a regular movie, because we're talking about the early 50s. So they ran a movie, to compete with what was out in the theaters. And so but they would run these old movies, and King Kong was just one of those that was put through. It was RKO. And so WOR was an RKO station. TV station. So we got all the old RKO movies, and part of that was King Kong and the Son of Kong and anything else that RKO put out. So, but that was all part of growing up. And those movies, like Ray Harryhausen and the Jason and the Argonauts, and going to see those movies, on a Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening. That was all part of life there. Right. And you got to see it on a big screen. That's the thing, is that today you don't get to see hardly anything on a big screen. And that will color your, if anything, it helps develop your imagination, because you figure out, how did they do this? There were no computers to do it. There were no okay, how did it work? Help me with my my comic book and how to develop my ability. It was the imagination of having to figure things out on your own. To me, that is the biggest thing a young creative mind can have, and that is non-reliance to something that's off of the software, off the shelf.
Right. Oh yeah.
And I'm gonna get started before anybody else says is AI is an abomination because it keeps you from figuring out anything.
Oh right.
If you can pick up, it's like, and Randy will know this. It's what is it? Chloroform. It was a color forms on steroids.
Yes, it is. Yes. If you don't know what color forms is, kids, go and look that up. That used to keep us entertained for hours.
Little sticky things, right?
Little plastic stickies you could stick over other little plastic stickies in front of little backgrounds.
Backgrounds.
Whiteboarding. Whiteboarding has been taken over now by just stuff that you got 5,000 different images that you can throw up. All you got to do is type up some font, and then they'll show you how to do this. Artists had made a living at doing whiteboards for maybe a couple of years, and now that's gone. So yeah, okay. What helped me was that there was a vacuum tube that I stared into, and I got all of it's kind of like watching a globe, a magic ball, a crystal ball, and seeing stuff come through here, and it's just kind of stuff you had to figure it out because you had to go through the snow and you had to go through the vertical and the horizontal, and all that stuff, and you just say, okay,
the rabbit ears and
rabbit ears, and hold it there because you were getting the reception there. Okay,
tinfoil.
Tinfoil on the antenna.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, I've said enough.
No, I was pulling that up because that's one thing, I'd love to talk about this on like real obscure toy program one time, but or not. They weren't that obscure when I was a kid, but color forms. This was something that, I mean, and these lasted like mid '90s at least. They were still
many
popular.
Years.
Yeah. And it basically, it was just this. Did you have color forms, Mitch?
I don't remember. Probably not, because they don't strike.
There you go. There you go.
There's some animation, right? Stop motion animation right
there.
There
You go.
Yeah.
There you go. There's the stop motion stuff. Right. What year is this?
Oh my gosh. I'm thinking. Does it tell me? No,
you're probably late
probably
60s.
60s, yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Good grief.
The bat signal. Everything. How great that
Why is Robin so tall?
Oh wow, that one actually had movable limbs. I don't remember having one of those. Everything was like a static image, and you just moved it around the little background and everything. I had fun with them things. That didn't matter.
You did stop motion in your head,
right?
With that stuff,
Sure. Yeah.
So, Randy, how do you think that it's influenced you and your writing?
Well, for me and drawing, it was Saturday afternoons. For me, was whenever I could stay indoors when my mom didn't kick me out to go play outside. It was always a monster movie or science fiction film or a horror movie on Saturday afternoons. I always loved those almost more than the cartoons, especially once the animation started going a little bit more stale, a little bit more safe. They still had those Saturday afternoon movies, the old Hammer films, Harryhausen movies, all the Sinbad films, the Earth versus the Flying Saucer is a big one that sticks out in my head because I drew that saucer over and over again once I saw it on the screen. And if you haven't seen Earth versus the Flying Saucer, it's got flying saucers crashing into the Washington Monument and into the Capitol building, and just great stuff. And of course, you knew it wasn't real, and that it was all done by models, even back when you were a kid. But that nothing matches that nothing. I saw Clash of the Titans, the first one, at the theater. I remember that, and Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger. But I think that's the one. I seem to remember it more for Jane Seymour though than the different monsters that were there. But that was just my misspent youth.
Well, there you go. That's a whole nother encouragement there.
Yeah, that's a whole nother bit of animation.
Inspired other things.
But yeah, the Harryhausen stuff is just, even today, like I said, those old films from back in the 50s and 60s, you just can't match them.
Right.
They're great. Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, just a giant squid coming up and wrapping itself around a tower. Just great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Hugh Marlowe.
Oh, yeah. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, yeah.
Joan Taylor.
You mean to tell me that's not real?
No.
For some reason, it just, yeah.
This is your first Independence Day. Like, this is
it is very. Yeah, it is basically the same story almost.
Oh yeah, well we always had. I mean, basically, this is Close Encounters over and over and over and over again.
Like just tearing everything up. Look at that. Yeah. That's awesome.
Oh.
Oh.
Throw that shoe at him.
Those are the globes we see today.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that are they're either ghosts or they're aliens. We haven't decided what they are yet.
But Demi Lovato loves singing to them.
That's right. Sure. What does it do with that? So Mitch, is there what do you say? Would stop motion influenced you in your creating?
Not necessarily influenced the creation, but just more or less just the fact I'm a fan of it.
Yeah.
More than anything else, because I'm usually inspired by like stories or concepts, and in regards to my own work, but yeah, just as a fan, I love stop motion animation. Ever since I saw Nightmare Before Christmas for the first time.
Right. So is that the one that stands out as being maybe not the definitive, but the top tier stop motion animation for you? Is Nightmare?
Not top tier. It was more or less the gateway into all the other stop motion stuff. It wasn't until very later that I kind of noticed or acknowledged that movies like King Kong and Jason the Argonauts were stop motion, because for the longest time to me stop motion was just a form of animation, and that stuff was special effects. But it wasn't until I maybe high school, college, when I kind of like, oh, that is basically the same thing as stop motion animation. Mm-hmm. But like I said earlier, I think my favorite stop motion anything is probably Wallace and Gromit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, JD asked, did you guys talk about Wallace and Gromit? And that just goes to show you how significant Wallace and Gromit plays, that it's like we were talking about earlier. It just it bridged gaps. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just a kid's show. It was I don't want to say wholesome, but
no, it is extremely intelligent.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the thing, and it's dry wit.
It's like the old theatrical cartoons, like the Looney Tunes. It's timeless and it's meant for everybody.
Yeah.
And because it's that well written, it becomes memorable.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and also came out at the same time where we saw this movement in animation where they were making shows for kids, but a lot of the concepts and jokes were aimed at adults. So you kind of had two different audiences for the sake of one.
You still had that. Warner Brothers was the same exact thing of the 1930s and 40s and 50s. Yeah. I mean, it's only when it became, ghettoized, when you started niching everything, like it'd only be from, 12 years old to 15 years old, or, this and that. I mean, when you went to, at some point, and it's with cable, everything just went,
wide open.
Everything went smaller into bite-sized chunks where nobody can make any money anymore.
Yeah.
So,
well, those distinctions really came from outside. That wasn't coming from the animation departments or from the inside of studios. That was coming from the outside. Those it has to be. This is before PG-13.
It's more regulation or the fear of being regulated that pigeonholed everything. Yeah.
I mean, I hate to bring it up because I always do, but like say the Muppet Show, you ask those guys today, the Muppeteers and everything, they said they'll tell you real quick, we weren't doing it for kids, we were doing it for us.
Yeah,
but it was all encompassing. It didn't have to be,
right.
Which is something I'd like to see us get back to. That's why I always kind of worry and I cringe at the thought of all ages, and the only reason that is because of the terminology. It's not all ages that I have a problem with. But when people think all ages, for some reason we have this idea that it's just for kids, and that's not always the case.
Yeah.
Well, I think nowadays you see a lot of that that kind of material becoming the timeless material. The Simpsons, the South Park, the Robot Chicken. It's not made for kids. They're not aiming at an audience. They're amusing themselves, and then everybody else is welcome to come along.
Yeah. Well, Warner Brothers, they each one of those directors, like Friz Freeling and Bob Clampett and all that, they made it for themselves.
Yeah.
They were specifically their sense of humor is very different from each other. So they would do things for themselves, and then they would win the Academy Award. They would do that sort of thing, and Hanna-Barbera with Tom and Jerry, those very violent cartoons, but they just did them for themselves because it was a way of releasing themselves, their frustrations and what have you.
Sure.
So, but you could do that in comic books. Especially in independent. We're going to get that into the mix of how comic books can be done. There's a difference between wanton violence and pornographic for the sake of doing it versus being intelligent and talking with material, at story material, and presenting it in a mature, intelligent fashion that doesn't talk down to your audience and cater to the lowest common denominator because it's something they can grab and go to the bathroom with.
Yep.
Right. Well, it's kind of like it's the same thing as when you deal with the issue of nudity. You don't have I'm sure there have been, but you don't have a problem with David.
No,
you don't have,
nuns don't.
Yeah, but
nuns have been pointed to doing their group photos with pointing to.
But it's the context that it comes to. David wasn't meant to be to inspire lewdness or anything like that. It was a celebration of the human body. So was the Sistine Chapel, but then they decided to paint clothes on them.
Weren't they done by the same person, Michelangelo?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's just I would take my kids to go see David, even though he's all out there.
Yeah.
But
there's not much though. There's not much you have to worry about.
There's a difference between that and some of the Greek statues of pornography and the Indian gods. Of the Kama Sutra. I mean, there are different things going on there. But I know what you mean.
Context.
Context.
Always.
Yeah.
Well, it's also dependent on how it's being presented. Like you said, David is just a study of the human body, and that's one thing that if anyone that's ever taken an art course kind of has to understand the first day that when you're drawing a nude model in front of you, it's not to get off on. It's here's essentially a machine that I have to understand how it works and operates.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, all right. Well, we got about we're about 1 hour and 20 minutes in. We'll go ahead and wind it down and let everybody tell everybody else where they can find us. So, John, why don't you go ahead and do that? Why don't you get us started?
Well, you can see me on Saturday mornings with Saturday Sketchy or Sketchy Saturday, and You can on YouTube with John Celestri, a bunch of videos that I've done over the years, and oh geez, just crank up the Google machine and type my name in there and see what you find.
Somebody did that Saturday. They went to the IMBD and they were just stunned. Oh wow, John, you've done a lot. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, next time just say what you didn't do, and that'll be a shorter
Right, there
list.
you go.
There you go. Yeah.
That'll work. Randy, let him know something.
You can always reach me on Facebook. I'm there disgustingly, I guess, anymore. The ZimmCast@gmail.com. You can always write me there if you need to email me. Tomorrow night at 10 p.m., there will be the ZimmCast that I'll spearhead, where we talk about the comics industry. Friday morning at 5 a.m., we do the Comics by Night, where we talk about the nuts and bolts of making sequential art. Then Sunday mornings at 9 a.m., and all of these times are Eastern Standard Time. Sunday mornings at 9 a.m., we talk about the comics that inspire us and that we loved reading, the classics of the comics, the good stuff, the Sunday Funnies at 9 a.m. with a group of folks, very much inspired by the stuff that the great old classic reading material.
Oh,
We
yeah.
like to show as much of that stuff off as possible whenever the conversation's not wandering way off in every direction that you can imagine.
Well, you had some gorgeous stuff, man, that I really wish we could have spent some more time on Sunday with the was it Phantom Stranger?
Yeah. Well, we did the last Sundays was a Halloween special. The Sunday before that, we did on different formats, where we pulled up different formats that comics have been printed in, and it's amazing.
Oh, right, yeah.
How we're in such a mindset now of the same size book, the same format to fit the same bag, the same board, and be slabbed in the same piece of plastic with a number on it. That it really shouldn't be like that. That way back when comics used to wrap bubble gum, they used to be left at bathrooms, roadside bathrooms with little spiritual messages.
Yeah.
Those are fun to read.
All sorts of great variety of stuff, and that's what we love about the Sunday Funnies. It's the stuff that inspired us, over the years. And we have Glenn Fleming and Russ Leach are usually on there from Great Britain, because that's middle of the morning for them. So and we talk about it's not just a bunch of nostalgic good old days talking. It's how great these artists were doing the work that they did in the situation, the conditions that they had to do them in. And it's just a great time in general. On top of that, I do Arrow Comics 4.0. You can find that all over most of your larger social platforms. Has an Arrow Comics 4.0 site. We've got a lot of things coming up. We've got the Rift Riders campaign that's just shutting down. If you go over to Indiegogo, we ran a bump for that earlier. There is an Arrow Comics tier where we're offering 8 great new Arrow comics for $50 plus shipping. All of those books are greatly, beautifully printed books, 32 pages a piece. There's all sorts of great reading there for only $50. It's I can't recommend it enough. There's a Paragon that I wrote and created, a superhero story. There's HeroBot Zero, which is a funny 3-foot-tall giant robot that fights large monsters. One of these days, maybe there'll be some stop motion on that.
Hey,
That
Why
would be
not?
great.
Sure.
I'm all for that. Plus, there's Calico. It's the fantasy book that C Michael did the artwork on. That I'm very, very proud of. There's an anthology book. There's Luke Stone's Hybrids. You get that great Rift Riders book in there. Sin Killer by Marv, who frequents the chat a lot of times. Just a great
Sketchy
offer.
Saturday.
So look out for Arrow Comics in 2023. We've got a lot of stuff planned, and we hope that you'll come along for that.
Awesome. You're sitting there talking about thinking outside that format of how we condition, and I think that's what attracted me about talking about the stop motion, because they wanted to convey these things on screen. They wanted to see these things, and they figured out a way that it would be plausible and pliable enough to do it.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Exactly.
You go back and you look at some. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
you,
that's okay.
You go back and you look at some of these things, and like I keep saying, they're just timeless. They're just pure art at work here. very labor intensive. Yes, it's just like doing a comic. Very labor intensive, very expressive. But when you're able to stand back and see other people look at your work, that's everything.
Right.
You know, it's such a great feeling to see. And these guys' works, Haus and Harry Haus and everybody that worked in the stop motion field all need to be appreciated. And you get a chance, sit back and enjoy Nightmare Before Christmas and think about what had to go in to moving all of this. Caroline, 9, there's all these other great films out there that are well worth your time to sit and watch through.
And one thing about it is, if you go and you talk to these people, or you see the interviews with the people who are behind the scenes that were working, like the Nightmare Before Christmas crew, they're very passionate about what they did.
Oh, yeah.
Even though it was for somebody else, and let's face it, they're just a name in the credits that might get skimmed over. They were very passionate, and they put a lot of love and a lot of work and time into what they were doing.
Well, it's a craft and a skill, you know, and like John said before, it's magic. It's always fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Movie magic, right? You don't get to hear that very often. Mitch, let us know where we can find you, sir.
You can find me at Linktree/Celtic Cross Studios, or you can find my website, my online store, my web comics, and my socials. I just got back on Twitter, so you can find me there too.
They let you back in, or you voluntarily just jumped in?
I just jumped in.
Oh my gosh!
Maybe you were banned or something.
That blue check mark.
No, I don't give a crap if I have a blue check mark or not. I mean, who do you think I am, Stephen King?
You got to be the real Mitch Rogers.
They are the real Mitch Rogers.
Well, good. Now I can tag you over there.
Yeah.
I keep losing followers on Twitter. I don't know if it's the fact that Elon came in there and knocked out all the bots, or if I'm just not that active on it. So that's probably
the bots, because mine went down too.
Yeah.
Damn those bots.
Yeah, but
all your bots went down.
I haven't been on it in like 4 years, so a lot of people, could have.
Yeah, they could have just said. Yeah. I'm surprised, because I'm like, I've got a whole bunch of friends on Facebook that I like to try to go and scroll through them every once in a while and look at somebody that I don't ever see, just so I could say something or comment on their so I could see them, because I know they're not
still alive.
Yeah, something. But because you got, oh wow, I got 1,000 and something friends. Where the hell are you? I keep saying the same people over and over again, and you find out that they've been posting. Yeah,
the algorithms on Facebook suck.
I know.
That probably just made them pull the plug on the programs, but it does.
Well, right.
Talk about bad about us.
Yeah. Well, that's why I say I'll try to. Sometimes I'll pick a letter and go through the letter of people I don't recognize, and try to go to them. Like, hey, what's someone over here? Like a post, say something on a post or something, just so you can start seeing them.
Yeah.
But anyway, so of course I'm C Michael Lanning. You can find me at Linktree/C Michael Lanning. That has my Facebook, the Twitter. If you want to go, I'm missing some, I don't know if you call them subscribers or followers. So if you want to go follow it, there's plenty of room. Of course, my portfolio. And you can always catch me right here next week on Dispatches from Outside the Box, where we're talking about magic, the hocus pocus magician kind of magic. So come on, enjoy that. And so have a good week. And I'm going to leave you with this.
I'll show you my claymation project. Okay, now I've been working pretty hard on this, and I think it's really good. So just hang on to your hat, okay? Okay, here goes. Did you pause it? Oh my God. That's the whole thing. That's 3 weeks of work. You're gonna be okay. No, I'm not. You see, in my head, I thought that was really, really cool. In fact, I emailed Leslie 2 days ago and I compared it to Avatar, Chris, and how can it not be longer?